So how do you see the future of the technology of the batteries? I mean, for example, BYD. Now we have to talk about BYD because the Blade batteries also go in the Model 3 Highland, for example. Also the LFP variants into the LFP variants, of course, and also in the 2170 form factor and the Blade batteries. And now we kind of seen here, like we've looked at before, that this could be a structural battery pack with the Blade batteries. Yeah, talking about BYD here, because the form factor, like I said before, is different. People said, oh, this is the answer of BYD to the 2170s. And now, Tesla, of course, will buy everything they can get their hands on. And also the CEO of BYD announced, gonna partner with Tesla or have a strong partnership, and did that publicly, which is a good sign as well. Yeah. What do you think about
what we're seeing is there's a lot of good BYD information out in the last couple of weeks. The idea is that if everybody else is pulling back, we have seen battery costs at the cell level drop sharply in China to like $65 per kilowatt hour, which is very, very good. That means your whole car, you're talking $5,000. But then, of course, you still have to make it into a pack, which is significantly more expensive. That's a big chunk of the cost. BYD is looking to open battery factories in Mexico, and they're not alone. Everybody wants some part of the North American market. If your battery is made in Mexico and you've got your minerals are sourced in North America, you should be eligible for that battery credit of $10 per kilowatt hour. Mm-hmm. And if it's the whole battery, it could be as much as $45 a kilowatt hour. Now your $5,000, $6,000 battery is $3,000, maybe $4,000 at the pack level for the entire pack. The car just got 10, 15% cheaper to build. That's going to be huge. And there are not many companies who have the technical ability to make their own batteries. Apart from partnerships, if you're Ford and you're going to partner with SK Innovations, you're going to say, which one of us gets that battery credit? That's going to be negotiated. If you're BYD, you get the credit. You are the battery maker and the car maker. So the real competition from BYD isn't because they make a better car cheaper. They make a car that's quite good, that's reasonably priced. It's because that battery credit is going to make their car vastly cheaper. And they're not going to have much in terms of competition in North America for battery production in the automotive sector, who also makes cars apart from Tesla. And Tesla is struggling to get to BYD's kind of output.
Absolutely. BYD had such a great growth story. They also had experience with battery production before. They made smartphone batteries, or also battery packs like power banks, for example, as well. And we're a huge producer of that. And of course, the knowledge of car production. So those fused together make a great competitor of Tesla, let's say, but they also partner. How do you see those signals that they are partnering and not being declaring competition? Because of course Tesla is a huge customer. It's one of the biggest customers of BYD. Why should they say competition? And I mean they have a friendly competition.
Yeah, they're not afraid. And I know you and I have discussed this before, but if BYD tried to go it alone, if there was no Tesla, if there were no other companies pushing, they couldn't. You need the charging infrastructure. You need all the support that goes with the EV industry. And the more EV acceptance there is, regardless of brand, the easier it will be for BYD to sell in the future. BYD has some problems with their cars, as I see it. There was a great video, I want to say it was CarWow did, comparing the BYD Seal to the Model 3 refresh.
Yep.
And what they found is, it's a good car. But at the end of the day, it's 800 pounds heavier. That's insane. That's too much. But if that's the reason you think they'll fail, I've got news for you. They're going to figure that out. They will be dropping pounds every month for the next 3 years until they get a car that is pretty much comparable to what's on the road. It's like in the early days when people said, boy, if Tesla can't sort out their panel gaps, I'd never buy one. Great. So what you're saying is, as soon as they sort that out, which they have, you will buy one. Guess what? It's now a pretty big seller. So you were correct. And I have seen early Model Ys, and there are gaps that I would personally find unacceptable. But it's a brand new car. There's a auto shop that's in California that specializes in straightening brand new cars. And a good example he gave in the shop is he showed, I don't remember if it was a McLaren, some $1 million car.
Yeah. I've seen that, yeah.
Have you seen it? And he opens the door, and
yeah.
you can see it's rubbing the paint on $1 million car. Well, I would expect more for $45,000. I'd expect more for $1 million. But and so they just bend it and tweak it.
Or the screws were loose in the engine area and stuff like this.
I think that's the same video,
It vibrated up or something from delivery, or I don't know what happened. So absolutely crazy.
So these are known things. Not everyone has the kind of tight tolerances that you would expect from Lexus, for example. Lexus, I don't know if they still have the same reputation, but for the longest time, famously the tightest cars. Apparently, the CEO of GM, there's an old story about how they bought a Lexus LS400 when they first hit the market, and he brought it into the Cadillac engineers and said, what would it cost for us to build this car? And the answer was, we can't. We can't build it. Not at any price. We can't build this car. There's things to be sorted out. And people discounting Toyota because their EVs so far have been so hilariously bad miss the fact that Toyota still has good engineers if they decide to get serious. And I'm not going to say when, because I'm not convinced yet. But if they decide to get serious, they will make a good car, and that'll be good for everyone. I hope they have some idea where they intend to get the batteries, because just taking the number of batteries they have now for hybrids is not going to be enough to make. Well, you'd have to cut your production by 80%, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a tough game there to play. And they're going to improve. And it's true. The seal was perceived also in Germany was, of course, horribly from the perspective of the legacy automotive companies that sit here. I mean, Mercedes is in Stuttgart and Wolfsburg, VW, for example, and BMW, of course, in Munich, a big thing. And if you have your car, we had this car show, the IAA, and the International Auto Show in Munich. It was last year, and there the Chinese were so present, it was ridiculous. They had a bigger booth than VW, for example, and stuff like this. So it was huge, and there, the first time they kind of noticed, the Chinese invasion kind of is coming. I mean, it was a strong term, but this was run through the news. And those are really competitors to watch out for. And those scared the legacy brands even more than Tesla. I don't know. But it's interesting to see that, for example, with the weights, like what you said, it's an interesting topic to look into.
Do you see many BYDs on the road?
No.
But you've seen Fiskers, haven't you?
I think I've seen one. No.
Because they're not made far from you.
Yeah, I've seen some. Maybe one Fisker I can recall. Yeah, I think I saw one time. Somewhen. Whenever, yeah.
I've seen two in the wild.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I do not have high hopes for them. Their idea of outsourcing all the manufacturing to Magna is costly, doesn't scale well, but the alternative is they would need billions of dollars to build a factory and a team capable of building a factory. And it's too many moving parts. I don't see a path to them being able to raise the kind of money it would take quickly enough to make it work.
Absolutely. And one question I have is when BYD is locating in Mexico, I've heard that right now the administration that is running the US right now is like, okay, what's happening here? They were thinking about reforming this law that or the incentive. And have you heard something about that? What's happening there? Or if it's serious? Because I think the date they were announcing was pushed so far that they kind of already have the big factory there. And then they're going to reform afterwards. And then it maybe doesn't matter anymore so much. Yep.
It's going to be about impossible. I expect to hear politicians at every level making empty promises about preventing Chinese autos from hitting our roads. We already have Chinese autos on the road. Polestar is a Chinese brand, and they do sell in the US. And there is no legal mechanism I'm aware of that would allow them to target Chinese companies. You can say, well, the company has to be headquartered on the continent. Great. BYD of North America is now the company making it. Happy? Well, they can't be majority owned, buddy. There are endless workarounds. If you want, the Ford Mach-E is made in Mexico. That qualified in 2023 under the IRA rules, even though it's not made in the US. We are free trade partners with Canada and Mexico. Unless you want to unwind the entire treaty, which is not impossible, but remember, this isn't NAFTA anymore, the one created in the 90s. This is the USMCA, which was only created, 4 years ago? So it is brand new, maybe 5, but very, very recently. And they did what they could to put in as many protectionist policies as possible while still being a legal document. And it was difficult to get it done as it was. And we have a saying in English for things that are very difficult. We say that would require an act of Congress, but this actually would.